kind of
Sure they show up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unorthodox on many levels, action and sci-fi movie The Hurricane Heist has received many criticisms and compliments since its release in 2018, and many of these claims are well justified. So, after having viewed the movie myself, and also after having reviewed many of its critical assessments by others, I've decided to cast in my own assessment of this movie into the sea of its very mixed reviews. I'll be covering and critiquing every major facet of this movie's plot and execution so that hopefully you, the listeners, will be able to get an idea of what the Hurricane Heist is like and whether or not you would like to watch it. So, first off, what makes this movie so strange? Well, definitely one of the most strange things about it is its plotline. Simply put, the Hurricane Heist plot is centered around two things. The first one being a well-planned robbery of a U.S. Treasury outpost outside of the town of Gulfport, Alabama, and the second piece being the fact that there's the killer hurricane storm of the century barreling down on this rural little town dubbed Hurricane Tammy. The coming of this hurricane inadvertently leads our criminals to cross paths with two brothers, Will and Bruce Rutledge, who I'll talk in more depth about later. As you can see, this plot is one of the most offbeat plots ever conceived by movie producers. Many critics have endorsed this trait of the movie for making it a dumb but fun actioner, while others have criticized it for being, in the words of Pierre Sobczynski, far too silly to get behind. For me, the plot line is a good feature of the film because it makes it fun and watchable, although admittedly it also does give it an air of stupidity and unbelievability. And while this could justify a negative opinion of the premise, it must be realized that action movies like this one specialize in the unbelievability factor, and some movies like this are just meant to be stupid but fun. One major criticism this movie has always run into is its unrealistic characters. The director of the Hurricane Heist, Rob Cohen, has always been known for his special effects and action scenes. However, he was never quite so talented at writing believable characters and engaging script. To illustrate this point, let's look at a few of the characters. First, we have Will Rutledge, a synoptic meteorologist who is ironically terrified of bad weather. And then we have his brother Breeze, his older brother Breeze, who is a womanizing Afghan war veteran who spends his days as a mechanic and his free time in a drunken stupor. Both of these brothers were substantially traumatized by their father's death via flying water tower 26 years earlier in 1992, which was in itself a major factor for them forging separate, polar opposite paths. While these two characters aren't the most realistic, it isn't very hard to imagine real-life people who are like these people. After all, many people, though cautious, are fascinated by their worst fears. And there are, of course, plenty of high school war jocks who, upon leaving high school, join the army, fight a war, and then come back and become womanizing alcoholics. What makes these two characters, though, so unrealistic is who they're played by, and surprisingly, their lack of credible accents. In the words of Andrew Barker, there isn't a single credible accent in a film completely set in Alabama. One of the main contributors to this serious flaw and plot hole is who the characters are played by. Will Rutledge is played by a British actor named Toby Kebbell, and his brother Breeze by an Australian one, Ryan Quanten. Besides this, however, there are a lot of other questionable characters, such as Special Agent Casey Corbin, who is introduced into the movie as a bad girl who plays by her own rules. And while there may be plenty of those around, what sets her apart from the believability factor is the fact that she intentionally rams her semi-truck into the car of an evacuee, backs up, and then drives across a tobacco field in the very first scene she's introduced in, which, admittedly, was not all completely necessary for her and her convoy to bypass the traffic jam. Moving on to one of the more positive elements of the movie, we have its action scenes. As I said before, Rob Cohen specializes in fantastical action movies like this one. And because of this, he has a talent for filming good guy versus bad guy fights. In this case, however, although the major action scenes of the hurricane heist were engrossing, the fact that they took place outside in a hurricane partially ruins their visual effects. This has always served to underscore the whole premise of the movie, because even though a robbery during a hurricane is an interesting idea, it'll always hurt its visual storytelling because of the effects a hurricane has. So, in summary, the hurricane heist is overall a fairly good crime disaster mashup that unfortunately was not well executed in its production, especially in the arena of the actors chosen. Thank you.
Very good.